Now, at what cost were they rescued? According to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, more than 100 Palestinians were killed due to the ensuing ground battle and airstrikes. So let's get perspective. Spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Tal Heinrich, and former CNN senior international correspondent, the president and founder of the aid organization INARA, Arwa Damon. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you, Chris.
Tal, I'll start with you. Two hostages because they were alone and being held separately. Does this suggest that there is promise of more to come? How can you describe the reality?
Well, Chris, let me just correct you. In the intro, you said that this is the first successful rescue operation of hostages. And in fact, it's not. In the first weeks of the war, if you remember, there was an IDF soldier, a female named Ori Megiddish, and she was released also in a special forces operation. But these two hostages, Fernando and Luis, I can tell you that they're in stable condition right now in a hospital. They're not sharing much about their experience, obviously traumatized. They will have to cope with their mental and physical trauma. They lost much of their body weight, and these images of them reuniting with their families obviously deeply touched our entire nation. We will continue to work tirelessly until we bring all remaining 134 hostages home. And this is yet another evidence. We have, two good reasons that we revealed yesterday as for why it is essential for the IDF to continue to operate against Hamas also in Rafah.
Understood. We've been tracking this very carefully. And just to be clear, I said since the early operations in October. This is the one that followed it. Look, we know how important it is to you and to families here in America, both Jewish and non-Jewish, waiting for word about the hostages. The importance can't be underestimated. The question then becomes, at what cost? And Arwa, I want to bring you in here. The goal was to remove as many people as possible from this region before the operation started. By most accounts, there are still a lot of people there, and obviously there were casualties in this. What are you understanding, Arwa, about how you get people out of that situation and if they have anywhere to go?
Well, here's the thing, Chris. There has been no effort to move people out of Rafah at this stage. I mean, Netanyahu said over the weekend that that was the plan, but the details of it were still being worked up. And as such, this operation went ahead with, no prior warning to civilians and no efforts to move civilians out of the particular areas. And we heard from one of the IDF spokespeople speaking specifically about this operation, where he said that, yes, the IDF did conduct a wave of attacks on Rafah during this operation. And we know that in the last 24 hours, around 160 civilians were killed and another 200 were wounded. Now, if we're going to talk about the logistics of trying to move 1.5 million people out of Rafah, and again, Netanyahu is saying that the plan was to move them to the areas north of Rafah, which are by and large completely destroyed, this cannot happen quickly. It is logistically impossible to quickly move that many people, especially without coordination with humanitarian entities. Right. To be able to humanely move 1.5 million people, you need to have preset shelter, food, water, access to medicine, access to toilets, and all of this requires a level of coordination with humanitarian entities that quite simply is not happening right now.
So, Tal, is it feasible to get people out of there, especially when one of the things that Arwa didn't mention is even if people wanted to go, not only is it difficult, not only is there not a lot of space, but also Hamas, by all accounts, is in no hurry to let people get out of the zone. Do you believe you're going to be able to get people out of there, Tal?
Of course it's difficult. It's not ideal. It's a war. It's a war that Israel didn't start and Israel didn't want. We are doing our utmost effort to get civilians out of harm's way, whereas Hamas is doing exactly the opposite, to keep them purposely in harm's way. They want them to get caught in the crossfire. They know for a fact that Israel cares more about Palestinian lives than them. This is what, they're admitting to it by their actions, Chris. This is why they're using the strategy of using Palestinian Palestinian civilians as human shields. Now, the Prime Minister has ordered the IDF to prepare such plans for a twofold mission in southern Gaza. One is to eliminate the last 4 remaining Hamas battalions there, and second is to evacuate the citizens. Now, it would have been ridiculous to tell the Allies, let's say, in World War II, well, you've taken out so many Nazis, why keep going into Berlin? This is the same situation here in Rafah. We will accomplish the 3 missions of our war in Gaza, which is to bring back the hostages home, eliminate the Hamas terrorist regime, and make sure that Gaza will never pose a terror threat to us again. And as long as Hamas rules the Gaza Strip, does not lay down their arms or surrender and release the hostages, it is a war zone. It's dangerous, and we're taking unprecedented efforts in the history of urban modern warfare to make it less dangerous for Palestinian civilians.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of News Nation's fact-driven coverage.